Bryce Young, Will Levis, and Hendon Hooker all left for the NFL. Is the SEC cabinet bare, or did the conference restock with young guns? We have all seen the internet sensation Joe Milton and his big arm, but can that translate to passing yards and wins on the football field for Tennessee? Big-name quarterbacks Spencer Sanders and Peyton Thorne transferred from starting jobs in other conferences to enter quarterback battles. Will they even be the starter at their new respective schools? Can Jalen Milroe display the leadership and playmaking Bryce Young showed, righting the Alabama ship after a 2-loss season? Jaden Daniels demonstrated that he is a true dual-threat quarterback in leading LSU to a Western Division championship. Is he ready to lead the Tigers further this season into the NCAA playoffs and a possible national championship bid? Stay tuned to hear our thoughts.
Welcome back to Clash of Cultures. As we continue along with our 2023 football preview for the college football season, we're going to take a stop and look at the top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC conference this year. But before we get into any of the football talk, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe down below. If you're returning viewers, thank you so much for your love and support. As we continue along with our push towards 1,000 subscribers, we just hit 700. So thank you guys so much for that. 600 subscribers in the last month and a half has been absolutely amazing. We did not expect it to go this well. But you guys are enjoying the content, so make sure you guys drop down below what other kind of content you want to see. Our comment of the day came from Noah. As you guys can see on the screen, he wants to see us do the Pitt preview, so we're going to be pushing that out to him on Tuesday. Let us know down below what other kind of videos you guys want to see, so you guys can be featured on the comment of the day. That's a new thing we're going to start doing. But before we get into the video, let's do trivia again. I have the trivia today. So, Dad, your trivia question is going to be, can you name the last 3 Heisman winners to not make the playoffs or the title game?
Oh, my goodness. All right, so obviously Caleb Williams.
So Caleb Williams is number 1. You just got to go down the list.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of mentally trying to go down each Heisman.
Okay, so try to name like the last few Heisman winners that you can remember. So obviously,
I know Smith went to the playoffs. Hey, who's the Heisman before him? Wait a minute.
Bryce Young.
Oh, Bryce Young was between them.
Yes.
Did he? I know they didn't go to the championship game, but you're counting playoffs as a whole.
Correct.
Did they go to the playoffs? I'm gonna assume they went to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Smith went. Joe Burrow went. Who's before Joe Burrow? You said last 3?
Yes, the last 3.
How far back does 3 take us? And I don't need the year, but are we talking about 10 years, 20 years?
At least 10 years.
At least 10 years.
I feel like this one was an easy one.
Manziel? Johnny Manziel.
So there's someone in between now.
Okay.
So 2012 Manziel, 2022 Caleb Williams, and someone in between there.
Okay, I know Winston went. Winston's after Manziel. Before Manziel.
After Manziel.
Kyler Murray.
No, Kyler Murray went to the playoffs.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Kyler Murray.
Come on.
Then Baker Mayfield didn't go.
Baker Mayfield went to the playoffs.
Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray went.
The comment section is going to be on you about this one. This is an easy one. I felt like after Caleb Williams, this is the easiest one. Because this guy was on a team that was not very good historically. And he kind of they just had a run while he was there. And that was
it. Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. Man, I didn't think he was going to take that long. I thought Johnny Manziel was going to be the toughest because he was, 10 years ago, you kind of forget.
I remember Johnny Manziel. Okay.
But let's go ahead and get into talking about the top 5 quarterbacks. So we won't do any honorable mentions today. We'll just kind of see who was the honorable mentions as if we have the same top 5, who was the guy outside looking in. But who was your number 5?
So my number 5 is Dennis Leary. Now,
Devin Leary.
What did I say? I said Devin Leary.
Devin
Leary obviously transferred over from NC State to Kentucky. Hurt last year, so kind of a disappointing end to his NC State career. Was a mainstay at NC State, but obviously a different conference, whole new players. And really what I'm looking at, and this is going to be a theme throughout my list here, is not necessarily, not fully, just last year past production, but what I think they're going to do next year. I think he's a good quarterback, good but not great. And I mean, good in a lot of aspects, but not great in a lot of aspects. So I think he's going to have a good season with Kentucky, but I don't think that Kentucky, especially when you're talking about in the SEC, has the talent to match up with some of these other SEC schools. So Devin Leary, that's who I have number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is Spencer Rattler. He's number 5 for me. I would say solely based off of the tail end of the season last year. Okay. She kind of showed me that he can play in big games. Obviously, after he transferred from Oklahoma, he had a lot of question marks surrounding him. Transferred to an SEC school, one of the, I would say, bottom tier SEC schools. Then went on to beat, a top 5 team in Tennessee, beat a top 5 defense in Clemson, and then hang in there with Notre Dame, who had a pretty good season themselves last year. So you beat 3 kind of playoff hopefuls heading into this year. And then they play Clemson again, obviously, in the Palmetto Bowl at the end of the year. So that should be a good one. He had decent numbers. He struggled early, but then the numbers kind of evened out, I guess you would say, towards the end of the year with that kind of hot streak that he had. So he came in at number 5 for me. My number 4.
He did not make my list. He would have been my honorable mention if we did honorable mentions.
Okay. My number 4 is Devin Leary. So right one step ahead of you. I had him at number 4. Not so much based off the stats, but his veteran leadership. I think Kentucky is a comparable team to NC State when you're talking about talent and recruits and skill-wise. But I think, obviously, the SEC is a lot better than the ACC, so he might struggle a little bit more there. But this is where we're going to really be able to see his true potential. I think he's going to be a probably top 5 quarterback taken in the draft next year, if I had to bet. And so I think when you're looking at and that aspect of it, he's probably right around the 10 mark for best quarterbacks in the country. So we're going to be doing that episode soon, but I have at number 4 for my SEC list.
All right, so my number 4 is KJ Jefferson. So KJ Jefferson threw for over 2,500 yards, 20 plus touchdowns. I really like him. Obviously, there are going to be quarterbacks I have ahead of him. But I think he's a true dual threat quarterback, and I think he's going to be very good for Arkansas this year. KJ Jefferson, number 4 for me.
So now I'm a little concerned. I don't know if I missed someone.
Okay.
Because you told me that you didn't have Rattler on your list. I had Leary. You just named your number 4?
That was my number 4.
Okay, my number 3 was KJ Jefferson. Okay. So I had him here.
I believe I know who from my list is probably missing from your list.
Okay. So my number 3 was KJ Jefferson. Those of you guys who watched the Arkansas video, I'm not high on Arkansas this year, but that has nothing to do with how good of a quarterback KJ Jefferson is. A lot of Arkansas fans kind of bashed me for saying that I didn't think they were going to be that good, and I thought Arkansas was a little bit overrated this year. But I think KJ Jefferson's the top 3 quarterback in the conference. I think he's probably him or Jaden Daniels is the best dual threat quarterback in the conference as well. He has arguably the best running back in the conference, so I think that's going to help him a lot. But I think the production that he showed last year, other than some minor mistakes, the hurdle at the 1 yard line, fumble, scoop and score, stuff like that. Yeah. That's why I couldn't put him higher than the other 2 quarterbacks on this list. But by no means is he a slouch. He's my number 3 on here, and I think he's a great college quarterback.
All right, I'll do my 3 and my 2. My number 3 is probably going to shock you a little bit because I think you're going to have him on your list higher. But again, remember, I'm talking about what I think they're going to do next year, not necessarily what they've done in the past. So my number 3 is Will Rogers, almost 4,000 yards passing, 35 touchdowns, been a mainstay at Mississippi State. Now, remember that they are changing their offenses after losing Coach Leach. So we'll see what it looks like in the future for Will Rogers, as we talked about in the Mississippi State video. But I suspect, because Will Rogers is a very talented quarterback, that he is still going to put up numbers. Now, my number 2 which I think is the person that you don't have on your list, is Joe Milton. I think Joe Milton is going to be at the end of the year. And again, this is more of a prediction versus based on production. Joe Milton, obviously under 1,000 yards last year, was not the starter, as Hendon Hooker obviously was the starter there. But he did throw for 10 touchdowns in his limited play. Again, we've seen all that. We talked about the videos. We've seen the 82-yard pass. And I think Joe Milton, as we talked about, a fringe Heisman, probably a New York invite type guy, that he has that sort of potential. I think he's going to have an amazing year. I think at the end of the year, I would not be shocked if we are saying Joe Milton was the best quarterback in the SEC.
Yeah, so you were right. I do not have him on my list.
Yeah,
And those of you guys who saw the Tennessee video as well as the Heisman prediction, I'm super high on him. I think Heupel's going to let him throw the ball over the field. We see the arm talent that he has, and the overall skill set that he displays on the YouTube videos, and even against Clemson last year in the Orange Bowl. So I wouldn't be surprised of him being on the top of the list. I just didn't give him that nod because that's more so. I made
you're basing it more on past production.
Yeah, and it's like I'm projecting kind of. So that's the only reason why I didn't put him on there. But
so wait a minute. So you don't project that Joe Milton's going to be a top 5 quarterback?
No, I do because he's a Heisman contender for me. But I'm saying I didn't make my list on projecting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it that way. But so my number 2 quarterback is Will Rogers, Jaden Daniels. I had Jaden Daniels here. Again, I think he's in a better situation than who I have at number 1. I'll just say my number 1 because I'm sure it's going to be flip flop. My number 1 was Will Rogers. Yeah. Yours is Jaden Daniels, right?
My number 1 is Jaden Daniels.
So we just have him flip flopped. I have Jaden Daniels at 2, not because of his stats, because we saw him, put on dominant performances last year. We saw him beat Alabama. We saw him almost get into the playoffs, finish with an 11-2 record, I believe, to finish the season. So it's not based off of his stats, but I think Will Rogers, the reason why I have him at number 1 is because of his stats and because of the 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions the year before that, in a really pass-heavy offense. I think he's going to be asked to do a little bit less this year, which in turn is going to make it to where he's not going to make as many mistakes. So I think, again, I'm not projecting that he has a better year than Jaden Daniels. I don't think Mississippi State's going to be a better ball club than LSU Tigers will be. But I'm just saying, quarterback for quarterback, I think Will Rogers is a better quarterback coming into the season than Jaden Daniels is. Not to say that's how it's going to be when it ends, because we could do this list at the end as it ends, and Will Rogers may be number 5 on my list. But I think as of right now, what he showed the last 2 years, there's nothing in my mind that makes me think that he's not, again, going to have stellar stats as well as having a positive season for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, my only concern is not having Mike Leach anymore. And again, obviously, tragic loss there. Will Rogers has put up ridiculous numbers, as Stephen has attested to, but they are shifting coaches. Mike Leach has put up numbers passing the ball. And what I mean by Mike Leach coach quarterbacks have put up numbers everywhere he's gone. It's literally one of his trademarks. So my only concern is, can he do that in a change of offense with a different coach? There's nothing that says he can't. But I have Jaden Daniels at number 1, true dual threat, almost 3,000 yards passing, almost 1,000 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns on the ground, 17 through the air. Very few turnovers, only 3 interceptions. And again, if I assume that LSU is going to be good, which is an assumption that I'm making, it starts with Jaden Daniels being really good. Like I said, I suspect that Jaden Daniels is going to be a New York invitee in that Heisman race, as I suspect that LSU is going to be a good team this year.
Yep. So that is our top 5 for Clash of Cultures SEC.
Let me say, though, quickly before we end, I would not put a single SEC quarterback ahead of any quarterback in the Pac-12. Not one.
Who's your number 5 in the Pac-12 again?
Whoever it was, he was
Cam Ward. Oh, come on. Jaden Daniels is better than Cam Ward.
They probably neck and neck. Did I have Cam Ward 5? Okay,
I know I had Cam Ward 5. I think we had the same top 5. I'm pretty sure. I think that was like a thing that we talked about, having the same top 5, even though it was a really hard one to make. So I'm pretty sure Cam Ward. I'm taking Jaden Daniels over.
Okay, I'll probably take Jaden Daniels over Cam Ward.
But,
all right, so I'd have Jaden Daniels number 5,
even behind Cam Rising.
Yeah, behind Cam Rising.
That's a hot take down below. But let us know in the comment section what you guys think of our top 5. We're going to be doing a top 10 overall college football quarterbacks after we finish up these next 3 videos. And again, like I said, Noah had the comment of the day with the him wanting to see the pit preview. So make sure you guys comment down below what you guys want to see, so you could be featured for the comment of the day. But as always, make sure you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload, and we will see you guys tomorrow.